Hello again. You are tuned into Mind Renewal Ministry, where science, mental health, and gospel meet. I am Sanya Duki, and with me I have Courtney Duki and Rolando Hyman. We are all psychotherapists, and we're also ministers in our own right. We're so happy to be back with you this week. And, I'd say last week was rather really interesting, trying to, I'd say, dissect the meaning of meaning itself.
Wow. That's pretty deep, son.
I'd say we're getting a little bit philosophical here, you know?
Meaning of meaning.
Yes.
I like it.
Yeah. But this week we're going to be talking about the essence of existence. So I'd say we're getting a little bit deeper. But we're going to be more practical also this week. We're going to be highlighting three fundamental principles that you can practice when trying to find meaning in your existence. So, when we talk about the essence of existence, I know for Frankl, he's an existential person. And in my work with people, I also take that approach as well because, I believe that we're here, but there is others out there. We have the world, we have everything around us. We're not in a vacuum to ourselves. So what comes to mind for you, Dr. Courtney Duki, when you think about the essence of existence?
Go back to our last discussion on when we defined meaning, and one of the things we talked about was the difference between finding meaning externally and finding meaning internally. And we all concluded that primary ultimate meaning is an internal locus of control. And as we talk about the essence of meaning this week, it's coming from that perspective, even in Frankl writings, that when I have that internal locus of control of finding meaning, then that leads me to take personal responsibility. And for what Viktor Frankl is going to talk about in his book, the essence of meaning has to do with me taking responsibility for how I go through life itself. Primary responsibility is with me to walk through how I walk through life. So the essence is connected to responsibility. And that's where Dr. Frankl goes with that.
So how, Orlando, how can you depict this, when you're talking to someone and they say, I want to find meaning. I want to find meaning. And, we're now hearing that it is really our responsibility to do that. How can you depict this to people that you talk to without letting them feel, hey, you're just pushing me aside and invalidating, my experience and my search for meaning in what I'm experiencing, as well as trying to reach out to you, right? How do we balance those two?
It's a good question, and sometimes I guess what's valuable is to seek to find out what is their worldview. What basically for them makes up the foundation of what is going to get them to that place where they're accepting of that, yes, I can breathe, like I've got it now. Yeah. I'm fine.
And that's what we do as psychotherapists, because I might have some pretty powerful suggestions on how to deal with something or deal with a conflict, a crisis, but my profound ideas mean almost, I'm going to say almost nothing, or it pales to insignificance to the person I'm dealing with. And one of the fundamental thrusts of psychotherapy is to have a conversation with someone, with a client, trying to elicit their own internal workings so they can take responsibility for their own lives. Because if I project something onto them, that's my solution. But if I can work with them and talk with them to kind of bring that out, and as we bring that out in therapy, then people are recognizing, wow, I have this in me. So when we say the essence of meaning or finding this meaning to life, it's already, from my perspective, every single human being on the planet already have it inside of them, just waiting to be activated. And it's how it's activated. Sometimes a crisis like COVID-19 it can bring it out. So crisis is not necessarily, even though it's hard to go through it, but there are lessons that we can learn from crisis. And sometimes crisis brings the best out of us. And that's where that responsibility comes from.
Yeah.
And that's why it's powerful. Just when we say the essence of meaning is it reside in one taking responsibility for their own personal journey. Not that they're isolated by themselves, but that they have others like us as psychotherapists. It could be a friend, it could be someone they're connected to who can help them to bring out that essence of who they are.
Yes. I was listening to Dr. John Maxwell. He's a world-renowned leader, and he trains leaders. And I never thought about it this way, but when he said it, I was like, wow, that's so profound. He said that crisis does not make a leader. Crisis reveals a leader. And, if we go closer here in our conversation, crisis does not just make us, it reveals who we are. Right? And that, in essence, is the essence of, helping us to find our existence, why we're here and how we can find meaning in our current situation. So I'm going to read a quotation here. And, we're going to discuss this a little bit. He says, Dr. Frankl says, the emphasis on responsibleness is reflected in the categorical imperative of what he classed as logotherapy. That's his work. And it says here, live, listen carefully guys, live as if you were living already for the second time and as if you had acted the first time as wrongly as you are about to act now.
No.
Whoa, when I read this, I'm like, wait, what? Hold on. And I had to reread this a few times in order to really get what it's saying. So let's dissect this a little bit here. What does he mean? Where's he coming from when he's?
Yeah, it's very profound. If we were to reflect on it for a little bit. There is something that I like to sometimes challenge persons that I work with in my practice. And the challenge that I put to persons sometimes is whether you are willing to accept it or not. Here's a big reality that you and I have to deal with. The reality is this: you will never be like the next person. It's not possible. But do you know what the flip side of that is? The next person will never be like you either.
No one can ever be like you.
And so when we start recognizing our own uniqueness, okay, we will start practicing that. We'll start living our lives like, hey, you know what? I got a second chance. I might have messed it up the first time, but this time around, that song says second time around. Okay, this time around, we are going to make sure that we don't mess it up. And so it's really living. It's really living and being mindful of how we live while we're living. So I really, that's a powerful.
Notice what he said in there, that there's almost an autocorrection before the mistake is made.
Yes.
He said, you're gonna do something now that's gonna mess you up. Don't do it. Just when you look at it, you look at what you're going to do now, reflect as though you're getting a second chance to do it, say don't do it. So stop, don't do it. That thing you're going to do, which is so wrong, don't do it. You're in a crisis, you're in the situation, that thing that you're going to do, which is, you know, it's wrong, don't do it. Because right now, as you reflect, you have the second chance to live it. So the second chance is being lived in the first opportunity.
Yeah.
So we're not waiting for the second chance, because the second chance is being lived in the present opportunity.
So how can you really make the difference between self-doubting and thinking about the possibility that, you know, like this is a second chance, so I gotta really think about what I'm doing, you know?
You know, one of the beautiful things, Sanya, is could there be, and this is a good question that I think can help amidst this pandemic that we're experiencing. And the big question that we can ask ourselves is, could there be that there are some pros to this pandemic? They are not all cons. Because I think why sometimes we don't cope well in crises is because we're focusing more on all the cons. We tell ourselves there can be nothing good that comes out of this. Okay? One of another author that I read years ago, I read this book, I Will Die Free. Okay? And it tells the story of a guy maybe similar to Frankl who was in prison for 21 years for something that he believed in. And I never forget a part of his story where he said, you know, he was put in a septic tank all the way neck up. If he put his chin down, that thing would get in his mouth. And he's there, and he was a believer. He's someone who believed in the truth. As a matter of fact, he went to prison for preaching the gospel. Okay? And he said as he was there and he was starting to doubt, he was looking at all the chaos, the smell, you know, the possibility that I'm going to die here. And he said when he looked, just turned his head and looked to his right, what he saw blooming in the septic tank was a water lily. Okay? And he said to himself, that water lily gave him hope and the assurance that, guess what? Even though you're here in this seemingly hopeless situation, God is still with you. And that is what I think is critical for us to remember. Could there be that amidst the pandemic, there are not all cons, there are some pros? And how do I focus on the pros? Am I still alive? Is my family still healthy? We might have gotten laid off, okay? But are we still able to eat and take care of ourselves? Okay, those are some pros. What else?
And I like the story you just shared is profound, because it fit right into Frankl's story, in that Frankl always said, Dr. Victor always said this: we can find hope in nature. The nature is so beautiful. You can look at nature and just gaze into it. And one of his method of dealing with crisis is sometimes we need to shift our focus. So shift our focus from the news, shift our focus from all the chaos and the crisis, and shift it to something that is pleasant, a water lily. In Dr. Viktor Frankl's experience, it was sometimes was looking at the grandness of the mountains around him and see nature and just almost lose himself into nature and the mind. So the mind then transcend his own situation, and I think that's profound.
I think there are three things that you wanted us to talk about in this same.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. So let's move on, guys. Let's move on. So the first thing we've heard so far is try to look beyond the muck to the flower. But I have one question before we get on to those three. For individuals out there who say, you know, that's just like an opium to deaden you to what is going on, right? How can we reconcile that thought with, you know, what we're saying? Hey, think of the pros, right? You know, what would you say to such a person?
I would say is what is so bad with healthy opium in the midst of a crisis. This is not going to cause you any pain. To shift yourself a bit, take yourself out of, and put that phrase in quotation, healthy opium, because
Not real opium, guys.
what we are alluding to is this, that we can shift our focus to something that helps us to transcend our circumstances, where we can experience beauty, we can experience a sense of tranquil and peace, because the mind is powerful. I might be in the present context in a situation that I cannot change, but my mind can move me from that circumstance or circumstances and bring me somewhere different. You know, for example, and this isn't a crisis. I struggle to go to the dentist, right? Because what? I really don't like needles.
He does.
Right? I don't like needles.
Nope.
But for me, when I sit in a dental chair, I just take my mind to one of my favorite locations in Jamaica, where I'm from, on the beach. And every time I go to the dentist, I move my mind there. And within no time, the dentist may say, I'm done. Like, what? You're done? So, literally, so all the fear, all the anxiety that I would experience if I remain mentally in the situation, I just transcend it and I move my mind to somewhere else. And oftentimes the dentist will finish doing what they're doing and they're saying, I'm done. I'm like, oh, wow, that was quick. And I'm gone.
So what do you call that technique there, listeners? We want you to let you in on another tip here. So one strategy is we can use is to visualize ourselves somewhere else.
Yeah.
And so, you know, that will definitely be helpful. We've used it. We know a lot of people who have used it. And for myself, you know, being a Christian, I visualize myself with Jesus and, you know, in different stories and, you know, see myself. So it doesn't matter which context you're in, you can definitely visualize. So let's move on here. It says that we can discover the meaning of life in 3 different ways. So the first one we're going to talk about. Man, the time passes so quickly and there's so much to talk about. So the first one, it says, by creating a work or doing a deed. Wow. Yeah. By creating work or doing a deed. Yes, guys, it's that simple.
Yeah.
You didn't have to spend $50,000 for that one.
Yeah, okay.
I'll define it for you. Frank put it this way. Work is doing something significant. In other words, I can find myself right now doing something significant. And something significant for one person can be different for another person. Something significant can be, I heard you talking about this earlier, Offset, about a gentleman who, you probably can tell us more about that story that you saw.
I was watching the CTV News Edmonton and a bus driver, you know, and I want to say shout out to the bus driver. Hopefully he'll be watching this. Okay, but it was so powerful that what he did is early in the morning, I think it was 5:30, he would go and he would get his bus and he would pick up those who are homeless and take them to a place where they can get tested and they can get beds and sleep and get themselves sorted out. And I'm thinking, wow, that's selfless, you know, and definitely that's a powerful piece, Courtney.
And it gets in there, work, doing something significant. That's significant in the midst of a crisis like this. And the thing that you're going to do may not be on such a grand scale as to driving a bus around, taking people to the home to get a meal or to get tested, but it can still be it can be reaching a need of a neighbor. It could be if you know that there's a senior living down the street, can you buy some groceries, bring it to the door and just leave it there and let the person know it's there without, we still want to keep a distance from people.
Oh God, I have to share the story. Our front yard needed, the snow needed to be cleaned off of it. And I kid you not, guys. I went to do it, and when I looked, it was clean. I went to my husband and said, "Did you go and clean?" He said, "No." I said, "But it's clean." I had no idea. Someone came quietly, did clean our snow off of our walkway, and we really do appreciate that. And these are little things that we can do to surprise people, and we're not just benefiting people. This is really benefiting us.
Yes, and it's powerful. And at this time too, Courtney and Sanya, as we talk about doing work, we have to also send a shout out, because one of our producers, his wife works on the front lines. Okay, she's in essential services. My daughter-in-law, she's in essential services in the States as well. And when you talk about doing simple stuff like that, I've been at my window and I've been noticing cars driving around with happy birthday signs on it and stuff. And so that's finding meaning, working and doing
Reaching
stuff.
out of
reaching out.
yourself. And that's one of the things he says, that we go out into, we find it not just by sitting down and trying to think in our head, okay, what's the meaning of life, right? We find the meaning of life by being out there and being in touch with our environment. We are going to be in our next sessions, we're going to be talking about the next two things that we can do to help us to find meaning in life. And the last thing that I wanted to share is, for us, when we reach out, we physically release serotonin, positive chemicals in our bodies, right? And that's a natural stress reliever.
Yep. Some things, I know some people may say, well, we should be quarantined.
Yes.
And we totally agree with that. We want to keep people safe. So even when you're deciding to help someone, we do it safely. So we're not saying just go and do and mix and mingle. We're saying find creative ways to help, to work, to reach out, to do something significant for someone else. So again, we want you to be safe, but a part of coping in the crisis is to do something significant for someone else, or to do something significant for yourself, because we can do something significant for ourselves too. So doing that will help us to get through this crisis.
And if I were to, the last piece I have to say on this, Courtney and Sonny, is this. This takes us right back to the book where it says it's more blessed to give than to receive. So in this time, if we are really not being selfish but selfless, we'll find that we will cope much better, and we'll be more supported. Just remember, it's more blessed to give than to receive.
Yes. And just to follow the example of Jesus, that's what he did. He reached out. And we can attain self-actualization, which is actually a side effect of actually doing these things. So that's the time we have for today. The next sessions coming up, we'll be talking about the other two things that we can do in order to get meaning and to have fulfillment in meaning. And of course, we'd love to hear from you. Please reach out to us. You will see our email and our address and our number at the bottom of the screen. And you can also share our videos on Facebook, Twitter, where else
Instagram,
are we? Instagram,
YouTube.
It's social media, but let's share some positive message out there for a change. Give people a break, give their brains a break. So thank you for joining us today, and thank you guys as usual. It's wonderful to be here with you. To our viewers out there, you are tuned into Mind Renewal Ministry, where we believe the best medicine is from the Word of God. Thank you and take care.